The Great Bible. 1 Samuel, the 16th chapter. David is anointed king. An evil spirit cometh upon Saul. The 16th chapter. The Lord said unto Samuel, How long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have cast him away from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with ointment, and come, that I may send thee to Isai the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. And Samuel said, How can I go? For if Saul hear it, he will kill me. The Lord answered, Take an heifer with thee, and say, I am come to offer to the Lord. And call Isai to the offering, and I will show thee what thou shalt do. And thou shalt anoint him whom I name unto thee. And so Samuel did as the Lord bade him, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town were astonied at his coming, and said, Comest thou peaceably? He answered, Yea, I am come to offer unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the offering. And he sanctified Isai and his sons, and bade them to the offering. And when they were come, he looked on Eliab, and said, Surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said unto Samuel, Look not on his fashion, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For God seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but God beholdeth the heart. Then Isai called Abinadab, and made him come before Samuel. And he said, Neither hath the Lord chosen this. Then Isai made Shammah come, and he said, Neither yet hath the Lord chosen him. Again, Isai made 7 of his sons to come before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Isai, The Lord hath chosen none of these. And Samuel said unto Isai, Are here all thy children? He said, There is yet a little one behind, that keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Isai, Send and fet him, for we will not sit down till he be come hither. And he sent, and brought him in. And he was brown, and of an excellent beauty, and well favored in sight. And the Lord said, Arise, and anoint him, for this is he. Therefore Samuel took the horn with the ointment, and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. And Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit sent of the Lord vexed him. And Saul's servants said unto him, Behold, an evil spirit sent of God vexed thee. Let our Lord therefore command his servants that are before thee to seek a man that is a cunning player with an harp, that when the evil spirit sent of God cometh upon thee, he may play with his hand, and thou shalt be eased. Saul said unto his servants, Provide me a man then that can play well, and bring him to me. Then answered one of his servants, and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Isai the Bethlehemite, that can play upon instruments, and is an active fellow, and a man of war, and prudent in doing of feats, and well made, and the Lord is with him. Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Isai, and said, Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. And Isai took an ass laden with bread, and a flagon of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul, and stood before him, and he loved him very well, and he was made his harness-bearer. And Saul sent to Isai, saying, Let David remain with me, for he hath found favor in my sight. And so it fortuned, that when the evil spirit sent of God came upon Saul, David took an harp, and played with his hand, and so Saul was refreshed, and did amend, and the evil spirit departed from him. The 17th chapter. David overcometh great Goliath. The 17th chapter. The Philistines gathered their host to battle, and came together to Sokot, which is in Judah, and pitched between Sokot and Azekah, in the coast of Damin. And Saul and the men of Israel came together, and pitched in the Oak Valley, and put themselves in array to fight against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on an hill on the one side, and Israel stood on an hill on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there came a man between them both, out of the tents of the Philistines, named Goliath, of Gath, 6 cubits and an handbreadth long, and an helmet of brass, and had an helmet of brass upon his head, and a coat of mail about him. And the weight of his coat of mail was 5,000 sickles of brass. And he had boots of brass upon his legs, and a shield of brass upon his shoulders. And the shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spearhead weighed 600 sickles of iron. And one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried against the host of Israel, and said unto them, Why are ye come out in array to battle? Am not I a Philistine, and you servants to Saul? Choose you a man from among you, and let him come down to me. And if he be able to fight with me, and to beat me, then will we be your servants. But if I can overcome him and beat him, then shall ye be our servants, and serve us. And the Philistine said, I defy the host of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were discouraged and greatly afraid. David was the son of an Ephrathite, of whom mention is made afore, of Bethlehem, Judah, named Isai, which had 8 sons, and was an old man in the days of Saul, and came to age among men. And the 3 eldest sons of Isai went, and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons that went to battle were Eliab the eldest, and the next Abinadab, and the third Sama, and David was the least. And the 3 eldest went after Saul. David also went and departed from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine came forth in the morning and evening, and continued 40 days. And Isai said unto David his son, Take for thy brethren an ephah of parched corn and these 10 loaves, and bring it unto the host to thy brethren. And carry these 10 fresh cheeses unto the captain. And look how thy brethren fare, and fed out their pledge. And Saul and they, and all the men of Israel, were in the Oak Valley, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went as Isai had commanded him, and came within the compass of the host. And the host went out in array, and shouted in the battle, for Israel and the Philistines had put themselves in array, the one against the other. And David took down the gear from him, and put them under the hands of the keeper of the vessels, and ran into the host, and came, and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there stood a man in the midst, Goliath the Philistine by name, of Gath, out of the array of the Philistines, and spake of the manner above rehearsed, that David heard it. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, ran away from him, and were sore afraid. And every man of Israel said, Saw ye this man come forth? Even to revile Israel is he come. And to him that beateth him will the king give great riches, and will give him his daughter thereto, yea, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by, and said, What shall be done to the man that beateth this Philistine, and taketh away the shame from Israel? And what is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should revile the host of the living God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that beateth him. And Eliab his eldest brother heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab was angry with David, and said, Why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride, and the malice of thine heart, that thou art come down to see the battle. And David said, And what have I now done? Is there not a word? And he departed from him into the presence of another, and spake of the same manner. And the people answered him again as before. And they that heard the words which David spake rehearsed them before Saul, which caused him to be fet. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail him because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with yonder Philistine. And Saul said to David again, Thou art not able to go against yonder Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a child, but he is a man of war, even from his youth. David answered unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and likewise a bear, and took a sheep out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and took it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by the beard, and smote him, and slew him. And so thy servant slew the lion, and the bear also hath thy servant slain. And truly this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them. Now will I go, and take away the rebuke of the people. For what is this uncircumcised Philistine, seeing he hath railed on the host of the living God? And David spake moreover, The Lord that delivered me out of the hand of the lion and out of the hand of the bear, he shall deliver me also out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord shall be with thee. And Saul put his raiment upon David, and put an helmet of brass upon his head, and put a coat of mail upon him, and girded David with his own sword upon his raiment. And he essayed to go. And because he never proved it, David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not used myself thereto. And David put them off him, and took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of a brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, and in a sling poke or pouch, and his sling was in his hand, and he went to the Philistine. And the Philistine came and drew near against David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but young and well-colored, and goodly to look upon. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with a staff? And the Philistine cursed David in the name of his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, a spear, and a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the host of Israel, whom thou hast railed upon. This day shall the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I shall smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the earth, that all they which be in the world may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this congregation shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he shall give you into our hands. And when the Philistine arose to come and draw nigh unto David, David hasted and ran into the battle, even against the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and took out a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell groveling to the earth. And so David overcame the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him, even when David had no sword in his hand. But David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of his sheath, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted, and followed after the Philistines, until they came to the valley, and unto the gates of Acharon. And the Philistines fell down wounded by the way to Saraim, even unto Gath and Acharon. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine, and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. When Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner the captain of his host, Abner, whose son is this young man? Abner answered, As truly as thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire thou, whose son the youngling is. And when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him, and brought him before Saul, with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? David answered, I am the son of thy servant Isai the Bethlehemite. The 18th chapter. The bond between David and Jonatas. Saul goeth about to slay David. The 18th chapter. And when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, the soul of Jonatas was knit with the soul of David, and Jonatas loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. And Jonatas made a covenant with David, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonatas put off his own coat that was upon him, and gave it David, and thereto his cloak, his sword, his bow, and his girdle. And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over his men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and in the sight of Saul's servants. And it happened as they went, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing against King Saul, and with timbrels, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another in their play, and said, Saul hath slain his 1,000, and David his 10,000. And Saul was exceeding wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me but 1,000. And what can he more have, save the kingdom? Wherefore Saul looked on side of David from that day forward. And it happened on the morrow that the evil spirit sent of God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand like as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul took the javelin and said, I will nail David to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence 2 times. And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul put him from him, and made him a captain over 1,000, and he went out and in before the people. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he was so exceeding wise, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and in before them. And Saul said to David, Behold, my eldest daughter Merob, her I will give thee to wife. Only play the man with me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul thought, Mine hand shall not be upon him, but the hand of the Philistines. And David answered Saul, What am I, and what is my life, or the kindred of my father in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? Howbeit, when the time was come that Merob, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, she was given unto Adriel, a Meholatite, to wife. Howbeit, Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they showed Saul, and the thing displeased him not. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the other daughter. And Saul commanded his servants to commune with David secretly, and to say, Behold, the king hath a favor to thee, and all his servants love thee. Be now therefore the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David. And David said, Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law? I am a poor man, and of small reputation. And the servants brought Saul word again, saying, Of this manner spake David. And Saul said, This wise shall ye say to David, The king careth for no other dowry, but for 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall into the hands of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. And ere the days were expired, David arose with his men, and went and slew of the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins, and satisfied the king thereof, to be his son-in-law. Wherefore Saul gave him Michal his daughter to wife. And Saul saw and understood how that the Lord was with David, and that Michal his daughter loved him, and he was the more afraid of David. And Saul became always David's enemy. The lords of the Philistines used to go forth. And it fortuned that when they went forth, David behaved himself wiselier than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by.